Hello and welcome to Fox Sports Lab AFL. I've got the Chief. Welcome, Chief.
To go.
Right, now let's have a look at the week that was, because in retrospect, I want to touch on the ladder to start. So we've got Collingwood and Port. Port have moved to second. I believe you think there's daylight after that with your beloved Brisbane Lions. So give us a quick synopsis of the top two.
Yeah, I think Collingwood and Port Adelaide are the two form teams of the competition. As I said, I do think it's Collingwood, Port, daylight. And let's also factor in that Collingwood next week travel to Perth to play West Coast, so that's a percentage booster. And Port Adelaide have got Hawthorn over in Adelaide, so that's a game you'd expect them to win as Brisbane going to the bye. And Brisbane are a little bit up and down at the moment. Brisbane, Melbourne probably next best, but I'm concerned about Melbourne, the way they're travelling. We've got St Kilda in fifth spot. That's the false economy of the top eight. I'm not sure what they're doing there at the moment. But the team I do like is Adelaide, that's working their way into the eight. And I think the Adelaide Crows are a potential danger team come September.
So you're saying Brisbane, on the basis of that, you don't have them in the top four? And Crows?
I think it's really hard to find top four teams at the moment. That's the thing. That's why I think it's Collingwood, Port, daylight, because everyone else is stumbling at the moment. So there are spots up for grabs. It's a matter of who's going to get on a roll and actually take it.
Well, speaking of getting on a roll, so we did the game on Friday night with Carlton and Sydney. How deep are the problems with Carlton?
Deeper than you thought, let me tell you, my friend, because you were very bullish about the Blues at the beginning of the year, and you have dropped off, and it took you too long to drop off. They are in all sorts of trouble. So I actually thought, given they were travelling badly, they'd still go to Sydney and have a win, but they were just demolished. Their midfield is incredibly slow. They've got poor ball users all over the ground. And we keep talking about Mackay and Curnow up forward, but the service to them has been deplorable. So the way they're transitioning the ball, there's not a lot of run coming from half back, not a lot of run from behind the ball. So I don't know where they go from here to go. I think there's list problems that need to be addressed for the Blues. So they're going to have to get some good ball users, get some speed into the team in particular, if they're going to go anywhere. And when you look at some of the big recruits that they've actually made, and let's be honest, they've traded some good draft picks away to get them. You look at McGovern, for me, has been a bit of a bust. Zach Williams keeps getting injured and hasn't been able to play. Jack Martin hasn't really turned into the player they wanted him to turn into. So tough run for the Blues, and it looks like continuing.
Well, I jumped off the Blues. Only took me 10 weeks. Melbourne, I'm on the fence at the moment, but you said there's daylight after Port and Collingwood. Where do you see Melbourne?
Don't know. That's the problem. They didn't beat a top four team last year. They hadn't beaten the top four team this year. Every time they run into a good side, they come up short. They're beating up on the also-rans, and they look like a really good team when they get things going their way and play the game on their terms. But at the moment, when they run into a good team, they are having trouble scoring. So that's a concern for them. They've got what looks to be one of the best midfields on paper in the competition, but it's just not proving fruitful when we talk about the scoreboard.
What about the false positives? So you talk about the top eight. The Saints lose to the Hawks on the weekend. Did we have them at the start of the season out of the eight? And now do you think that their start to the season is a false positive?
Yeah, well, I didn't have them in the eight at the start of the season, but they did get off to a great start, and then everyone jumped on the Ross bandwagon, and we were all happy with them all of a sudden. But I mean, there's some same old concerns there. There's some structural issues which we thought Ross would probably consolidate. Defence wasn't good on the weekend. They shouldn't be dropping games to Hawthorn if they're going to be players come September. Now the problem is there's going to be a few teams, and the Saints are one of them, that may very well get into the September action. But are they going to do any damage? Doubtful at the moment.
All right, as the teams head into a bye, there's no spell for you and I, but we'll be back on Thursday for another preview. Thanks, Chief, and thanks for tuning in to Fox Sports Lab AFL.